Lesson 14.4, Nets and Surface Area. So the objective of this lesson is to learn how to find the surface area of a prism by adding all the areas of all the faces. So a wooden box is painted red all over. The total area painted is what we would call the surface area of the box. Let's take this example of a cube made out of cardboard that has edges measuring 4 centimeters each. So we're going to figure out the surface area of the cube. If we were to cut this cube apart and lay it flat, if we cut it along these dotted edges and laid it flat, the flattened figure would look like this. And the flat figure is what we call the net of a cube. So you can see it laid flat, that's called the net. You can now see the 6 square faces of the cube, and the surface area of the cube is equal to the sum of the areas of the 6 square faces. So you remember that to find the area of a square or the area of a rectangle, you just multiply the length times the width. So in this case, 4 times 4 is 16. So each one of these squares is 16 centimeters squared. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares times 16 centimeters squared. So let's go to the next page. So the 6 square faces form the net of a cube, and the area of the net is the surface area of the cube. So with that last example, the area of one square face, like we said, was 4 times 4, or 16 centimeters cubed. And to find the surface area of the cube, you could add all the sides together, 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16, or you can just multiply them. That's a lot quicker. So 6 times 16 is 96 centimeters squared. We're going to skip this example because you'll have plenty of examples on IXL and in your workbooks. So we're going to go to the next part. Finding the surface area of a rectangular prism. This rectangular prism is 10 inches long, 6 inches wide, and 5 inches high. So how would we figure out the surface area? We'd have to cut it apart and form a net. So a rectangular prism has 6 faces. Its opposite faces are called congruent rectangles. So the ones that are colored green, those are congruent because they're the same size. They're both 5 inches by 6 inches. The ones that are colored blue are opposite each other, and they are 10 inches by 5 inches. And the ones that are colored brown are also opposite each other on the prism, and they are congruent. They're the same size and the same shape. They are 6 inches by 10 inches. So what you'd have to do is find each pair of congruent rectangles or congruent faces and multiply them. So the area of the 2 brown rectangles, we know that they are 6 inches by 10 inches, and we know that there's 2 of them. So we'd have to have 10 times 6 plus 10 times 6, or 2 times 10 times 6. So we know that 10 times 6 is 60, 60 times 2 is 120. So the area of these 2 brown rectangles is 120 inches squared. And then next, we would find the area of the blue rectangles. So we know that these are 10 inches by 5 inches. So we would find the area by doing length times width. 10 times 5 is 50. And we have 2 of those shapes. So we have 10 times 5 plus 10 times 5, or 2 times 10 times 5. 10 times 5 is 50. 50 times 2 is 100. So we have 100 inches squared. And the area, finally, of the green rectangles, if one side is 6 inches and the other side is 5, we would have that twice. So 2 times 6 times 5. We know that 6 times 5 is 30. 2 times 30 is 60. So it's 60 inches squared. So to find the surface area of that rectangular prism, we're going to add the sum of all the sides. So we have 120 plus 100 plus 60 equals 280 inches squared. And again, we're going to do a lot of practice in the workbook and on IXL, so we're not going to go through these examples right now. We're going to look at how to find the surface area of a triangular prism and what its net would look like. So if you had a cardboard triangular prism and you cut it apart, this is what it would look like flat. So this is a net of the triangular prism. 2 of its faces are congruent, these 2 triangles, and then the other faces are rectangles, which are not congruent. So what we're going to have to do is find the area of the 2 congruent triangles and then each of the areas of each of these rectangles, and then add them together. So the area of the two brown triangles is 2 times a half times 3 times 4, because remember that for the area of a triangle, it's half times base times height. So we know that 3 times 4 is 12, and half of that is 6. So this part in the parentheses is 12 times a half is 6. So 2 times 6 equals 12 centimeters squared. So that's the area of the two brown triangles. Now we'll get the area of the green rectangle. If it's 9 centimeters by 3 centimeters, 9 times 3 is 27. So we have 20 centimeters squared, 27 centimeters squared. The area of the blue rectangle, we have 9 times 4 equals 36. So it's 36 centimeters squared. The area of the yellow rectangle, the length is 9, the width is 5, so length times width is 45 centimeters squared. So to find the surface area of the whole triangular prism, we're going to add 12, which was the area of the brown rectangles, plus 27, which was the area of the green one, plus 36, which is the area of the blue one, plus 45, which was the area of the yellow one. And the total, when we add all of those together, is 120 centimeters squared. So you're basically just finding the area of each shape and then adding them all together.